What is up, folks? NYK31 here, bringing you a Madden Ultimate Team game on this Easter Sunday and the day after the Madden Club Series Championship. And with that tournament concluding, that leaves only one left, and that is the Madden Championship. And that'll pretty much, the Madden year is pretty much dead already for just about everybody who's not in the Madden Championship, who didn't qualify for that. So we're all just pretty much playing for nothing except for the top 32 players on both Xbox and PS4. And that'll pretty much put an official bow on the Madden year. Even though unofficially, most of us have long since mailed it in. The leaderboards are dead. Salary cap ranked is pretty much dead. There's nothing to play for other than for your own amusement and to, try stuff. So I thought this would be a good time to reflect and examine where we are with Madden, where we've come from, where we are, where we potentially may be going. Right now, I think we're in a little bit of a weird place as I don't know of too many factions that are 100% thrilled with the game. Everyone is varying degrees of annoyed right now. We went from a game. Let's backtrack from the beginning. In the beginning, people were pretty much trying to feel things out, get a feel for what worked, what didn't, how the new zones worked, how the new run mechanics worked, and just trying to establish how the game would play. As we see here, I'm playing a Nickel Blitz Tour, a serial Nickel Blitz 2 caller, which is what the game has pretty much devolved into right now. But in the beginning, you had a game where people were actually trying to run the ball, running the ball very well. It took the Madden community about a month to figure out what a run fit was. It took them that amount of time to figure out, oh, cover 4 stops the run, as it should. And there was also some flaws in the run fit system that were uncovered, mainly out of cover 3 and also out of 3-4 versus stretch and counter runs and overhang defenders in 4-3 over and under, not setting the edge. We also had a legitimate 4-man pass rush. The base pass rush was serious. In my opinion, it was the closest we've seen in a football game to what a dominant 4-man pass rush should feel like, as far as having time to throw the ball and not having a year and a day for all those zone breaking shot play combinations to develop and work out the AI. We then went through a stage where, after people were whining about getting their quarterbacks killed and fumbling because of their, bad habit of releasing the ball late at the last second when the pass rusher was bearing down on them, the devs, in my opinion, overreacted. In addition to tuning the issues with stretch and counter, which were legitimate, they also tuned the offensive line, defensive line get off as far as the amount of time it takes for your defensive lineman to trigger a pass rush move. And that resulted in a game where every edge defender went from not being able to set an edge at all to setting the edge like a prime Lawrence Taylor. So now we were right back to having a game where dollar and quarter defenses were viable formations to stop the run. And on top of that, the tuning they did to the offensive line defensive line matchups resulted in a game where you were no longer punished as consistently for releasing the ball late while getting hit, and you had a game where now silver and bronze tier offensive linemen were able to handle elite pass rushers, and in turn, that exposed the flaws in the deep zones and their tendency to drift and just abandon people when guys hot route to these long developing route combinations down the field. And that is when we started to see the emergence of all of these edge pressures, because you could no longer generate a consistent pass rush. Guys were searching for ways to be able to, generate pressure and not be out there covering for 8 to 10 seconds. And then from there, we had the third and final version of the game, where the devs did a massive update to eliminate things such as motion snap, speed bursts, and they reset the offensive line, defensive line matchups closer to what it was during release. So now it's somewhere in the middle. It's somewhere in between what the game was at launch and what the game was after the first round of updates. But at this stage of the year, the cat's out of the bag. Everyone knows how the game pretty much operates, and what flaws are pretty much unfixable until the next version of the game. Nickel Blitz 2, for example, is here to stay. There's no fixing it. Can't be done. Swerve glitch, no fixing it this year. Can't be done. Stuff like that. So if you're a guy who wants to compete in the online ranked modes, it leaves you with no choice than to learn how to deal with these tactics and adapt to them, because guys ain't gonna stop using them just because you don't like it. Like in this game here, this guy is a product of the Nickel Blitz 2 phenomenon. This guy is terrible. He's able to hang in this game and have a lead and be competitive because this one blitz setup so screws up the offensive line logic that it really handcuffs a lot of what a person can do. What you're starting to see now to combat that is guys throwing their tall spec catching traffic wide receivers into the slot and doing quick high point passes to them. I mean, hell, Monster almost won the Club Series championship just unleashing Randy Moss out of the gun close slot and just banging high passes to him. And I can't blame him. What's he gonna do? Guys are bringing in a virtually unblockable blitz setup, so it makes sense to play that way. Throw your tall receivers into the slot and just quickly bust it down the seam and high point it and hope he gets it. And let me tell you, that Ultimate Legend Moss, I have one. I don't have the Boss Edition one. I have the regular Ultimate Legend one. The dude borderline breaks the game. I mean, he's just crazy. And if you notice, more receivers like him are coming out now this late in the year. Guys who can go up and get it, and guys who can, hang on to the ball in traffic. At the beginning of the year, there weren't a whole heck of a lot of receivers who could do either one. But now you got quite a few. You got the Team of the Year, OBJ and Larry Fitz, Mike Evans. Herman Moore's probably going to get an upgrade or an Ultimate Legend. Ed McCaffrey's got a new card out now with 96 catching traffic and 92 spec. You got the Ultimate Legend Moss. You got the Ultimate Legend Ocho Cinco. You got the VIP Kelvin Benjamin. I think that's going to be the new thing for the remainder of the year. These tall spec catch receivers that you can throw these quick high point passes to over the middle before the nickel DB blitzes get there, before the cross man defenders cross a field to take those receivers away. And unfortunately, what all of this leads to is a game that's not really a whole heck of a lot of fun to play right now. I don't know of anyone who's happy right now. The tourney guys are annoyed because you've got guys coming out of nowhere and beating these guys who've been grinding away for years in the tourney scene and picking a piece of the pie. The sim guy isn't happy. He doesn't want to have to be forced to bastardize what he wants to do in order to keep up with the exploits. The sim Nazi is never happy. He's either worried about mouthpieces and wristbands, or he'd rather watch the game and have the game do everything for him rather than actually play the damn thing. The CFM guy, he feels like an abandoned stepchild left out in a driving rainstorm with only a wet paper bag over his head to keep him dry. He feels completely left out in the cold. So basically no one's really thrilled right now. I do give Rex a lot of credit for being visible in the Twitch chats during these tournaments and seeing how these exploits wreak havoc in the game and what those exploits have turned the game into. I think all of devs need to do that. I think Clint needs to be in there. I think AW needs to be in there. I think when they see, what the exploits do as far as the havoc that they wreak on the game, I think when they see that, that puts more of an impetus to get them rooted out of the game. I think that and the increased visibility of these tournaments are a great vehicle for that, along with, of course, interaction with the community, which they do very well. I'm absolutely convinced that they want the right things as far as gameplay is concerned. For example, during one of our Twitter exchanges, Clint Oldenburg revealed that he cannot stand base line. He thinks it's ridiculous. Wants it gone. But the Madden community likes it. It's a popular feature. You saw the hell that they raised when they had trouble getting used to actually getting sacked by defensive linemen. The Madden community, in a lot of ways, has been conditioned to accept checkerboard football and not have to worry about the nuances that you need to execute in order to be successful. I mean, yes, it's a video game. I don't expect everyone to have a Bill Belichick level of technical expertise in the sport. I don't even expect people to be like me. But I do think that a learning curve greater than call nickel normal, pinch your defensive line, fan them out, base a line, pass commit, and boom, instant defense is too much to ask. And if you can't win games, you can't win games. If you suck, you suck. Figure it out and get better. Whether you're a sim guy or a tourney guy or somewhere in between. This was really my first year that I dedicated a load of resources toward playing Mutt and being in the competitive scene, so to speak. You guys who've been following me for quite some time know that I've always been an online league guy, but this year I kind of put the online franchises on the back burner and focused on the competitive end because I wanted to experience the game from that spectrum and interact with those guys, in that arena. And I did pretty darn good for myself, I think. Cracked the leaderboards in season two and season three. Made a strong push to qualify for for the previous major. Just ran out of time. And along the way, I had to learn some things. I had to learn some things about MUT salary cap as far as how to build a team efficiently, and also learn how to approach the game from more of a cutthroat, competitive tournament gamer type of fashion. Oh, let me go back to that last touchdown for a second. That was one of the more satisfying touchdowns I've scored this year. I was saving that play all game long for the right moment, and I was just hoping that nothing crazy would happen and I'd get rewarded for it. And I did. But yeah, interacting with the competitive scene gave me a better perspective of and a different perspective of the game, and how those guys think and what they want. And truth be told, I find their mentality, mind you, more realistic than I find the sim player's mentality. In the real world, if the team lined up against you cannot stop something, you don't go away from it ever. You force them to stop it. The competitive player, they think the same way. Sim gamers can be their own worst enemy at times, and a lot of them are just flat out babies. That they just want the game to do all the work for them. There still has to be a skill gap there and a talent gap there that separates people who are skilled and good at the game from those that aren't. I shouldn't really call those type of guys sim gamers. I should call those guys sim Nazis. You guys know the type, the ones who are just constantly miserable, constantly whining about something. But honestly, outside the extremists on both ends of the spectrum, the competitive side and the quote unquote sim side, most of us want the exact same things. We want to be rewarded for our execution and our skill level. We don't want to be spammed and hosed by exploits and game glitches. We basically just don't want to be feeling irritated whether we win or lose, really. And, I think the guys that are on board the game now, like I said, are the right guys. I think their intentions are in the right place. It's just a matter of executing and getting it done. I also feel like the Madden player has to change as well. There's too much of a tendency to freak out and just lose your mind at the first sign of something being difficult. Stopping an all pro wide receiver is not easy. You better either have a guy who's just as good as he is, or you better be scheming to, make his life as hard as you possibly can. That's just one example. Everything on a football field is contested with just an incredible amount of intensity and energy. Everything matters: numbers, angles, size, speed, quickness, mental toughness, football IQ. And on any given play, one or more of those 22 people on that field can rise to the occasion or screw up. And all we want really is a game that, replicates that as cleanly as it can, while, not being overly cumbersome. It's just still a video game that's meant to be fun and is played by, a wide variety of age ranges and skill levels. When I hear people say things like, "Oh, I want everything that I see on Sundays. I want everything replicated like I see on my TV." Those people don't have the first clue. They have no clue. You wouldn't be able to cross midfield, most of you. That always makes me laugh. But yeah, I don't envy Rex's job in the least. There's a lot of factions and a lot of people out there that need to be kept happy, and it's pretty much impossible to do. All you can do is just give the people the best and cleanest playing game as you can, and you know, let the chips fall where they may. That's really all I got. I rambled on enough. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll talk to you all later. Peace.